The Invincible Stalinist Flag of Proletarian Internationalism by RAKOSI. During these agonizing days, when the hearts of every working person and every peace-loving nation in the world are filled with deep sorrow, the eyes of hundreds of millions are turned towards the capital of the Soviet Union, Great Moscow. The minds of all of us are filled by the painful loss that has met us in the form of the death of our beloved leader, great teacher, Comrade Stalin. The minds of us are filled by his teachings, his legacy. A veritable ocean of devotion and condolences floods from all corners of the world towards the working people of the Soviet Union, which has suffered such a devastating loss. This unprecedented expression of condolences and sympathy shows more clearly than any words how deep and genuine, how devoted is the bond connecting progressive humanity to the Soviet Union, how boundless was the love of ordinary people for their great leader Stalin. Joseph Vissarionovich Stalin was the wisest leader and teacher of our whole epoch. The broadest masses became accustomed, in every difficult situation, before every decisive turn, to listen and follow his wise words, the direction pointed by his steady hand. He shaped the thinking of the revolutionary proletariat and developed its action. From him, we learned the construction of the Leninist-Stalinist party of the new type, the tactics and strategy of the proletarian liberation struggle against imperialist oppression. He formulated and implemented the plans for the building of socialism. He solved the problems of transitioning from socialism to communism. On the basis of his guidance, the communists of the people's democracies are building their socialist future. During every historical turning point, he encouraged us to be brave and resilient, and ceaselessly he focused our attention to guarding the purity of Marxism-Leninism as the apple of our eye, to raising high the flag of Proletarian Internationalism. The great and victorious cause of Proletarian Internationalism traverses as a guiding thread through the diverse revolutionary career of Comrade Stalin. The working class of the USSR, said Comrade Stalin, quote, is strong not only because it has a Leninist party that has been tried and tested in battle. Further, it is strong not only because it enjoys the support of the vast masses of the laboring peasants, it is strong also because it is supported and assisted by the world proletariat. The working class of the USSR is part of the world proletariat, its advanced detachment, and our republic is the cherished child of the world proletariat. There can be no doubt that if our working class had not had the support of the working class in the capitalist countries, it would not have been able to retain power. It would not have secured the conditions for socialist construction, and consequently, it would not have achieved the successes that it has achieved. International ties between the working class of the USSR and the workers of the capitalist countries, the fraternal alliance between the workers of the USSR and the workers of all countries, this is one of the cornerstones of the strength and might of the Republic of Soviets." Unquote. From Stalin's report to the 17th Party Congress of the CPSUB. Ceaselessly, Comrade Stalin kept returning to this idea and strove to instill it into the heart of every communist, every proletarian freedom fighter. He illuminated from all sides and emphasized in particular the organic relationship between the Soviet Union and the world proletariat. Tirelessly, Comrade Stalin taught the working people of the world to be loyal to the end to the cause of Proletarian Internationalism, to the cause of the brotherhood of the workers of the whole world. An internationalist is one, stated Comrade Stalin, quote, who is ready to defend the USSR without reservation, without wavering, unconditionally, for the USSR is the base of the world revolutionary movement, and this revolutionary movement cannot be defended and promoted unless the USSR is defended. For whoever thinks of defending the world revolutionary movement apart from or against the USSR goes against the revolution, and must inevitably slide into the camp of the enemies of the revolution." Unquote. From Stalin's speech at the joint plenum of the Central Committee and Central Control Commission of the CPSUB, July 29th to August 9th, 1927. The communists of the world have experienced the decisive importance of proletarian internationalism in the hard struggles against imperialism. Comrade Mao Zedong, the leader of the liberation struggle of the great Chinese people, expressed the view of all of us when he greeted the 19th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union with the words, quote, "The names of Lenin and Stalin are the flag leading forward the toilers of the whole world. the Communist Party of the Soviet Union is the model for all communist and workers' parties, unquote. We learned also from the example of Soviet communists raised by Stalin that we work best for proletarian internationalism and human progress when we effectively and consistently defend the working people of our own countries, when in our own countries we carry out, until victory, the struggle against the enemies of the working people. From Stalin we learned that patriotism and proletarian internationalism intertwine together in inseparable unity and interaction, and that their interaction is a source of new energy, becomes a motivator of new victories. The 19th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union was a living and convincing demonstration of the great victories that communist and workers' parties have achieved under the invincible Stalinist flag of proletarian internationalism, and the tremendous power they represent. Quote, "Theory becomes a material force as soon as it has gripped the masses," unquote, declared Marx. That is what happened. The idea of proletarian internationalism has gripped the masses of tens and hundreds of millions of people and transformed into a motive force of a liberation struggle against capitalist oppression and exploitation all over the world. The sacred vow of the leaders of the communist parties in capitalist countries that they will never allow their countries to be driven to war against the Soviet Union revealed the determination of the peoples and was an enthusiastic expression of functioning proletarian internationalism. The representatives of the fraternal parties of the people's democracies demonstrated at the 19th Congress of how many things they can be thankful for Comrade Stalin, and how enormous for them is the help signified by every victory, every example and support by the Soviet Union. The same was said by the representatives of the communists in capitalist and colonial countries, pointing to the most varied examples. The 19th Congress was a tremendous, world-encompassing demonstration and expression of proletarian internationalism. It proved that this idea lives strong in the hearts of hundreds of millions of toilers, and encourages them to new actions, new victories. In this spirit, it delighted the representatives of the communist parties fighting all over the world, who enthusiastically and unitedly gathered around the beloved leader of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, the great, wise Stalin. At that Congress, where Comrade Stalin for the last time had the opportunity to speak to the working people of the whole world, he again took proletarian internationalism as the central topic of his speech. The great leader referred to the fact that the Soviet Union has always needed and still needs the trust, sympathy and support of the fraternal parties beyond its borders. "It is understood," said Comrade Stalin, quote, "that our party must do its duty by its fraternal parties and support them and their peoples in the struggle for liberation and in their struggle for keeping peace. This is what the party does. After the seizure of power by our party in 1917, and after our party took real measures to eliminate the yoke of capitalists and landlords, the representatives of the fraternal parties, inspired by our daring and the success of our party, gave it the name Shock Brigade of the Revolutionary Movement and the Workers' Movement of the World. Thereby they expressed the hope that the success of the so-called Shock Brigade would alleviate the sufferings of the people in the situation of being under the capitalist yoke. I think that our party has fulfilled these hopes." Unquote. Throughout the world, every communist pressed deep into their hearts these words of Comrade Stalin, this brilliant expression of proletarian internationalism, where he also mentioned our country, the Hungarian People's Democracy, among the new shock brigades of the international revolutionary and working class movement. Now, the enemy hopes that we will be paralyzed by this great blow, this terrible loss faced by all progressive mankind. The enemy does not know that the common sorrow and compassion of hundreds of millions is not a source of weakness, that it will not lead to hopelessness. The common earnest grief, deep sorrow and compassion of the 100 millions of the best members of progressive humanity is an expression of belonging together, inspiring unity and respect. It doesn't result in weakness, but in new strength, which even better will gather the toilers of the world around the liberating Soviet Union and will temper even more the sinews of the arms hardened by struggle, so that they would firmly carry ever forward to new victories the proud flag of Stalinist proletarian internationalism. This feeling and this consciousness have struck deep roots in the working people of Hungary. For centuries, the people of Hungary have carried out a difficult struggle for their freedom and sovereignty. As the poet says, "Our best fell in long battles under the bloodied flags of freedom." Only the victory of the Soviet army raised by Comrade Stalin, brought freedom to our country, sovereignty for our people. In its most recent history, our people, for the first time, is breathing the air of liberty. All the advantages of the new life are available for it, and it is carrying out the great work of transformation. For all this, we can thank the Soviet Union, great Stalin. Knowledge of this is the source of our people's eternal gratitude and love for the great Soviet Union, for beloved Stalin. Comrade Stalin's friendly help, his wise teaching, made possible for us to construct our fighting party, the Hungarian Working People's Party, that we were able to overthrow the power of capitalists, exploiters in our country. He helped our devastated country rise to its feet. He protected us from imperialist attacks. He led our people back into the honored family of free, progressive nations. We can be thankful for our opportunity to peacefully and confidently build our happier socialist future. Within the Hungarian people there resides an unshakable and deepening understanding that the basis and realization of every one of our achievements and victories is inseparably connected to the help provided by the liberating Soviet Union and the great Stalin. There is no area of our free life where this doesn't become evident, and each one of our victories, each one of our achievements, only increases our free people's gratitude for the Soviet Union and the dearest friend of the Hungarian people, Stalin, only deepens in our toilers the spirit and consciousness of Stalinist Proletarian Internationalism. We are eternally connected to the Soviet Union by gratitude and shared principles. Our shared sorrow and grief now only solidifies this bond. Not only here but everywhere in the world, the same emotion overcomes millions of working people. On the death of their leader, the toilers of our cities and villages promised to gather even more firmly and unitedly around the Hungarian Working People's Party, promised with even more self-denial to build their socialist future. But they promised also to further deepen and strengthen those ties which connect them to their liberator, the great Soviet Union, promised to become even more loyal soldiers on the world-encompassing peace front. They promised to fight even more devotedly for the triumph of the Stalinist cause of Proletarian Internationalism. There is no power in the world that could halt the advance of progressive humanity. Our beloved leader, great teacher, inspirer of our victories has left us, but his decisive, invincible work remains. The mighty, tried and battle-hardened Communist Party of the Soviet Union is its continuer, unshakable continuer of the Leninist-Stalinist policy. It is surrounded by a whole group of fraternal communist and workers' parties, and Stalin's creative revolutionary spirit lives on in the Soviet people, in the united and mighty socialist camp of 800 million people, in all progressive humankind, inspires peoples and leads them forward. Under the triumphant flag of Proletarian Internationalism, the peoples advance firmly towards their great goal, towards socialism and the realization of communism. Published in Pravda, March 12.